All right. We were live streaming here on Facebook and YouTube. So if you get this, I'm going to try to drop the link below for my Skool community. This is where most of this content gets handled for free. So if you have a interest in trying to manage your stress and you're interested in the content that I put out there, or you're resonating with it, then the best thing to do is to join the live Skool community. And we talk about this stuff every week. This comes from our conversation yesterday on our weekly brain break from our community. I want to share with you a little bit about what we're talking about in there. Last week, we talked a lot about anxiety and the fact that your emotions and your feelings are driving your physiological reactions, or your physiology, literally driving your biology. And that leads to your health outcomes. So your consistent thoughts and feelings are driving your heart rate and your blood pressure and your digestive tone and your hormones. And by having those same feelings on a regular basis, whether it's stress from work or stress from life, they're creating a biological signature for that, and your health outcomes are from that. So we don't heal when we're in anxiety. We don't heal when we're under stress. That's when we're in a mode of survival or to get things done, and we're always getting things done. So tend to be in stress. We never go into the other state that we're going to talk about today called coherence, and that's where rest, digest. That's where the healing hormones like DHEA and oxytocin and dopamine naturally get produced in our body. And that's where we start to heal. So unless we go into a particular physiological state called coherence, that doesn't necessarily happen in any great degree. And now our biology doesn't reap the rewards of being in rest and digest. So what does that look like? So first thing we want to talk about, and a couple of topics, I want to hit on four different things today. Coherence is not relaxation. So this is not about learning to relax. It's learning to synchronize your heart, your breath, your hormones. So you're in a more focused pattern. So when you're in coherence, it's not about relaxation. You could have a very high heart rate. You can have caffeine in your body and you could be going at a high heart rate, but you could be in coherence at the same time, locked in, focused, and your body's not in fight or flight, but it's in a much more controlled place. So you don't. So coherence is not relaxation. It's not turning things off or zoning out. It's synchronizing away from the very erratic thing called anxiety, which is very non-specific reaction, getting ready for anything to come. And coherence is the opposite, where you feel much safer, more. Your body starts to regulate itself and go into a different patterns altogether. That's what coherence really is, and it's guided by your heart. So what's interesting is that your heart has 40,000 neurons in it, has nerve bundle, and the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So when you have a thought that triggers a reaction, the heart then gets that signal and it entrains. It's almost like the conductor to the orchestra of your life, of your nervous system, and the heart creates a rhythm pattern that synchronizes and it collaborates or coheres with the other rhythm patterns of the body, and the body starts to get synchronized. Where anxiety was kind of all over and out of sync, coherence is the very opposite thing, where your digestive patterns, your hormone patterns, your breath patterns, your heart rate, everything starts to sync up in a much more coordinated or coherent way. And that's what we want to shift into. And like I said, it's not about shutting things off, it's about lining things up and being aligned with your biological systems that will they'll produce much more healthy outcomes. And it does not happen when we're under stress. So it's important for us to shift. That's why, as the coherence coach, I teach you how to get out of anxiety through a psychophysiological practice, right? Where we're breathing and we're using heart rate variability, which I'll mention in a second, which starts to synchronize your physiology, right? I'm a chiropractor. I'm interested in your health, in your physiology, and your body outcomes. It just turns out that your mind and your thoughts will create the signature emotions that create that pattern. Just like your mind and your emotions creates a signature pattern of stress and anxiety and fear and uncertainty, we're creating that psychophysiological shift and going into coherence. And how do we know we're doing that? Well, we use heart rate variability. I always kind of take this out. And heart rate variability today, in this day and age, you may know of Aura rings or wearables that you can wear on your body. Well, those are designed to measure your heart rate variability over a 24-hour period of time. You can see when you're sleeping well. You can see when you're not. You can see when you're in high or low coherence throughout your 24-hour period day. Well, what we do with our coherence training is it's instantaneous heart rate variability. So we can measure in the moment whether or not you're driving yourself into coherence or you're in anxiety. And because of the practice and the techniques that I teach you, and there's some free techniques and some free practices in my Skool community that I want to at least expose you to so you can kind of get this experience. But when I use heart rate variability, I'm measuring the tone and I'm actually measuring the physiological pattern that my body's going into. And I can kind of coach people to get into those levels of coherence and maintain that. And it's measurable, and we measure it on a screen, and you keep that data. So we're absolutely measuring and heart rate variability is the gold standard to measure your autonomic nervous system. We have the ability to shift your autonomic nervous system intentionally out of stress and anxiety into that rest digest place called coherence and higher levels of coherence to start to create that healthier reactions of your body. Your body starts to learn how to naturally and normally and regularly go into coherence, just like it trained itself to naturally and normally go into anxiety because you trained it that way. If you tend to be under stress, you tend to have lots of chronic issues because of lack of sleep or inability to regulate your nervous system. It's been trained that way. There's nothing broken or wrong with you. You've trained it that way. So all we do with the Coherence Coach and our free community start talking about the idea of we have the ability to hack into our autonomic nervous system, bring it into coherence using heart rate variability, some breath work, and some thought process, and it starts to create a much healthier place for you to be. So that's what coherence is, and that's what we do. And I'd love for you to join us. So I'd love for you to, if you start to understand what I'm saying here, that you dip your toe in the water, very low barrier of entry. It's a free Skool community, and it's a free course, and it's a great place to come and just kind of consider this in your life, because we all have the ability to control or to have access to and put our autonomic nervous system into manual instead of being on autopilot. And once you realize that and how easy it is, that you're innately born with the ability to do that, you just may have not, you may have trained it out of your nervous system, or you may not know that it's available to you. And that's exactly what I'm here for. So that's what the Coherence Coach does. Love to have you in our free Skool community. And I'll make sure there's a link to this video somewhere below. I'm not here now during the live, but I'll drop it in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you there. So hope this was helpful. Look forward to doing this again next week. My first real live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. And I hope this was something that was beneficial for you. So have a great day.